What's good, everybody? It's your boy Mike White, aka Son of a Mike. You are now tuned in to the My Side of the Story podcast. I will be your host. I'm just trying out something new. Guess this is what you would call the pilot episode. And on this, just gonna be telling things from my side of the story, my perspective, and how I see it, and my experience of what I went through, the current events that affect me and people like me. Uh, I guess I'll start off saying a little bit about myself. If you don't know, I'm from Waynesboro, Virginia, born and raised. You know, born in the 80s, raised in the 90s. If you'd ask me, I consider myself just a regular guy, Just took the long way to get to the right way, made my mistakes. Been throughout the system, as you would call it, juvenile. Been to prison a couple times, Uh, that's the basic summary, We'll be getting to that later on. And as we go on, that's just a brief, small synopsis of who I am, Uh, got a company called All Year Round, doing some clothing, trying to build a brand, a household name, quality brand, Been doing that for about 10 years now, still learning. Uh, yeah, doing music, just trying to elevate positive, you know. And for a while there in my life, most part of my life, it was a lot of negativity surrounding who I was or who people thought I was, so to speak, and even in my actions. So I have to take my responsibility in that. But yeah, this trying this thing out, gonna run through some current events and all that, basics of the podcast with my own perspective on things. Um, so, being that this is the first episode, I don't really have no order right now because I'm new to doing this. But growing up around here, in the basics of aging or growing up, you form your perspective on life, and you quickly realize that everybody's is not the same. You could have people who live in the same household that have different perspectives. The mother's perspective of life is going to be different from the father's, so forth and so on, and they're going to show you and teach you different aspects that you're going to pick up on and add to your perspective once you experience. But sometimes your experience is good or bad. Some people go through that changes all of that in the way they see things. You could go through an experience that traumatizes you to where the things that are normally seen by people is not seen that way. You don't see adults the same if an adult did something to you and you wasn't able to, rectify that as a child. You had to gotta navigate through your life avoiding those type of things or having sketchy feelings toward people who did anything similar to whatever that adult did or a kid did or so forth and so on, your friend or your girlfriend. You start to form your mental maturity through your experiences, even if you ain't mature enough to understand them. So sometimes you don't really comprehend or get the full understanding of what you're going through, or sometimes how you've acted over your life until you are able to deal with that. You know, it could be something as far as just like you riding your bike and you fell off it, and so now you have this experience of being scared to get back on the bike and ride again because you fell down and broke your ankle or something, or even just scraped your knee. Now you're more skeptical. Some people fall down and get right back up on the bike without no problem again. Others, they might shy away from it for a little while and be more cautious about how they move because of that incident and not wanting to get hurt again. Other people face it head on. For instance, as a kid, my big sister Dee Dee was fearless. So, and I was the one who was tagging along behind her, trying to, be tough like her. She, make those ramps back in the '80s with the wood on them, and they all wobbly, and she'll go down a hill full speed and jumping with no problem. Here I am putting on my brakes, barely going over it, and her, come on, man, what are you doing? You supposed to be a boy. You ain't supposed to be scared to go over there. What's wrong with you? Can't even jump a little wood. Try to fix the sandwich code. So, growing up, I dealt with my sister making me tough because some things I was skeptical about. Once I wrecked my bike, I was like, man, shoot. I'm getting back up, getting skint up again. Y'all know how I feel when you get skint up. Skin come off of you, had that little cherry thing on your leg. Touching it, just touching it hurts. Sweat get on it, sting you all up. Don't even want to get in the tub. But yeah, I went through those days as a kid too, trying to learn how to be tough. When you don't have no idea what that means. That's somebody else's concept that they're trying to teach you how to be, and really not to be tough, but to not be afraid to get back up after you fall down. But then parents, you fall down, they'll tell you, hey, stop doing that. Y'all better stop doing that. Might tell you once or twice, and you do it again, and they'll say, all right. Next thing you know, bow. They'll come over there and see if you're okay. And then once they see you okay, the first thing they're going to say, see, told you. Should have listened. Now, parents don't want their kids to experience none of that. Some of these kids ain't even got no scars on their leg. They ain't even been outside. They ain't jumped no ramps or fell down, So sometimes that'll make life even tougher for you when you are afraid to even try to do things, And growing up around here, for me, you felt the pressures of fitting into everybody's box. Because, as a kid, you look around and you want to be accepted. So you kind of start doing things that you see the people that are accepted or popular doing. You start trying to do those little things. And they ain't even a part of you. You can tell when you're doing them because you don't feel comfortable. But when it's better to try to fit in than to be alone for just being yourself as a kid anyway. Because the things that you see as fun and everybody see as fun, you want to be included in as well. And you for your own reasons might feel that you don't fit in with them. Or you might feel that you ain't capable of doing some of those things when really you are. You know what I mean? But when you grow up in a place to where there are ideas decided for you and there are things put in place to where your direction is already turned to, for instance, most people put the stereotype on people who are tall to be basketball players, or if you smart, then you're in a nerd category or so forth. You know what I mean? And if you don't learn as fast, then I guess you slow, or or uneducated if you talk a certain way, or if you heavy, then you fit in the category of fat and unhealthy and lazy. You see what I'm saying? When you could be at your size doing more than somebody that is not as heavy as you, but you still put in those same type of categories, and even you put yourself in them. And a lot of that has to do with your experiences coming up as a kid and your environment that you in. Because we grew up right next door to a couple that was prejudiced, and one the guy, he was mentally challenged, but he would come out every morning before we would go to school if he seen us and call us niggers, yelling, screaming at the top of his lungs, and we had to walk to the bus stop every day and come home every day, knowing that he was, any moment, he was going to bust out the screen door saying it, and it was like, for us, it's very hard to ignore that, But at the same time, you had to be mentally strong enough to, as that age, to try to ignore it and not let it affect you, much less just ignore the sound of the words, but how it affected you as a kid on the inside, wondering like, what did you do to these people to make them say this to you? And furthermore, where did this come from to where this is what your label is, right? And you hear this person saying this to you before you go to school, and then you go to these schools, and then the history they teaching you is that maybe that what this guy is saying to you has validity or something, because they teach you about the slaves and all of this nonsense that mentally you start to believe that's what you are. So it's almost okay for him to do that. You know what I mean? And then seeing your parents' eyes and seeing that they hurt by it, and you wonder why they ain't doing nothing, or why they can't do nothing. You seen them call the police, and the police come by and they just give a reason to, well, we can't really do nothing. And then you see these same police come to your house and maybe arrest your uncle or somebody if they retaliate and say something back to those same people, not even touch them physically. And that starts to form another part of your mind from that experience. And seeing that there's not fairness in the system that you are already forced in by just being black. So now you know that in the back of your mind, the people that you see on TV that's supposed to be the people that protect you ain't even gonna protect you or try, but will definitely take you to jail or take someone you love to jail that's trying to defend you from something that they know is definitely wrong. So then you start to formulate your mind about adults, because as a kid, you're supposed to stay in the kid's place, and adults are the hierarchy of, who you're supposed to trust, and they're supposed to act a certain way and supposed to have certain morals to teach you and that you should follow. Like, don't disrespect your elders or don't talk back. You know what I mean? And sometimes in those cases, it can lead a child to being in the situation to be in more harm, because this adult is taking advantage of those bylaws that has been placed in a child's mind, that he's getting in trouble if he tells, you know what I mean? Because you've been told that a kid is not supposed to talk back or not supposed to do this. You know what I mean? So when you see that as a kid, it's hard to wrap your mind around, why is this okay if it's wrong? Why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? Why is he so upset at us? You know what I mean? And your parents can't even give you an explanation of it. So that's a part of you that you take with you every day to school with people that look like him. Are they thinking that same way about me? And then you go to school, and the teachers, you see how the teachers start acting towards you and certain people, how it's different. And so as a kid, you start to question yourself, like, something wrong with me? All these people that's just doing these things for no reason. You go look in the mirror as a kid and wonder, like, what's wrong with me? Why is it, why they don't treat me like that? Why do they kind of face turn to a kind of frown when my name is mentioned, but they smile when they talking to them? You start to notice that stuff early, because as a kid, inside all you want to do is be accepted and be loved. And when you start to see these cases to where you're not accepted and not loved for just being different, then that starts to take a toll on you. You start to kind of believe those negative stereotypes that they place upon you, subliminally, indirectly, in your school books, on the TV. It's like in the magazines, everywhere you go, you see this, and then you're experiencing it right beside where you live at, in your house, and all the places that you go. You start to question yourself as a kid. You're like, man, what did I do? So And then certain people who that might live in the same town 15 minutes away would never understand that, has never experienced that. And you could explain that to them and they'll have this attitude as if you're, embellishing or overreacting, but they have no experiences in it, so they really can't speak on it in a real sense, but they only do from their own experiences and their point of view. So in this world alone, there are many different things that are the same for people, and there are many different things that should be the same for people that are blatantly not. It's like there's no thin line in between, especially coming up then, in between people that were black and people that were white. There was no blurred line there. It was the Klan used to march through here once a year, I believe. And that right there lets you know where you stood at and where those people in power that made the decisions for you stood at. And because once you, as a kid, understand what the Ku Klux Klan stood for and what they were doing and who they were against, outright. So if people are letting them march through your city, and sanctioning these things, and, they have to be with them in that sense, which means their kids is going to be affected by it. Their family is affected by it. And how they associate or disassociate with those people tells you where they stand at in your life if you deal with them. Whether they're a teacher, a banker, or anything, if they're tied to those same people. Some of them people were wives of those, or husbands, and they were still school teachers and gym teachers and, in positions of power in this area. And it showed. I don't think there was even the town, Waynesboro High School wasn't integrated until 50s, I think, or something like that. That just gives you an idea of how you can grow up in the same place with people and you live in two totally different worlds. But even with all of that, it still didn't stop people of color and people of different races and backgrounds from coming together and mutual respect for each other. Because at the end of it all, if you, inside of you as a person, there's always going to be either this love for people for how they treat you and how they are, or it's going to be this part of you who always going to have this idea that, certain people should stay together and certain people shouldn't. It's just going to be in you regardless. Mentally, anybody's mind can be swayed and programmed even without them knowing it. But your heart and how you feel, that's up to the individual to express that how they feel, no matter what they've been taught. Because some people will be around their parents and follow these certain rules, and their parents gone, they're a totally different person, and their parents would never know that when they're hearing things about their kid, that they're doing it. Some parents can hear stuff about their kid, be like, yeah, that's him. I can see them doing it. You know what I mean? And sometimes you'll find instances where you be like, what? They did that? And then when you talk to the individual, he gonna give you his side of the story of why it happened. It's gonna be all these things that people try to tell you about somebody else, and then you actually talk to the person and it's different. Or you meet the person and it's exactly what it is. But you still, in your own mind, have to formulate that opinion from that person on yourself. Otherwise, you just judging them for what you heard. And everybody has their side of the story to tell, good or bad. But it's not for somebody else to tell or to even to sway somebody to believe differently. But that happens all the time. But like growing up, Your environment sometimes does form your first, perspective. Because I think once you get older and or grow and experience more things in your life, your perspective can change. But there are some things to me, the way I feel in life, that are solid no matter where you go with culture or how old you is. And respect, I think, is one of them. Love is another one. Truth is another one. Like, they transcend color, cultures, and everything. Like, I think anywhere you go in the universe, those things will be universal. Now, your way you display love, that's different. Every individual is entitled to do that, if you ask me. But as far as the principles of it, I don't think they can change for each person. I think the principles of love, respect, are going to be the same no matter what. And if you don't treat people with that, or in that love, or in that respect, the same way that you would want it, then it's not real. It's just a word then, or a title. It's almost like the idea that in the age, or your age, should be a limitation for you and what you choose to do. I know as far as being younger, there definitely should be parameters of what somebody who is not comprehending the consequences should be able to do or indulge in, of course, even though it may happen. But as far as like limiting a person or a group, or for instance music, limiting a certain group to a certain age, or you got to do this a certain way, nah. Because then on other levels and other professions, so to speak, there is no age limit. And I think that definitely comes down to cultures too. Because ultimately, your life journey is one that continues even after you're gone, because what you leave behind or don't leave behind can either further your legacy or, maybe stop it. You might have had something good going all the way up until you turned 30. And then at 32 on, you had a kind of down spurt, and then they disregard everything you did before, you know what I mean? And then you could be doing bad up until you 30 and doing good, and then they hold everything you did that you was 30 against you for the rest of your life, no matter how much good you do. And I think in certain cultures it happens more than others. Like, for instance, amongst people of color, we tend to hold each other to the standard of living that we think they should be at. We don't tend to encourage people at all levels of their life to be themselves or be the best them. As kids, most of the time they steer towards sports or entertainment. They level you off with a certain type of mentality. They start you off with in the books with saying that you were slaves. They started the mentality from the negative perspective, making you think that that's what you got to start to come from, as opposed to just saying, man, hey, man, you can do anything. You don't got to pick these 3 things to be, or show you these 4 or 5 black inventors and say, you know what I mean? Or on the flip side, show the 4 or 5 white people that they only know that are bad, or so. You know what I mean? So I think, like, in the case of age and maturity, your color or your culture shouldn't place limitations on you. Your status, your parents' status, financial status, or class shouldn't be the limitation for you. Because some people growing up and they got money, their expectations for them is already to be the top of what their parents was. And ours is almost like, oh, I'm the first one ever to go to college. I'm going to be the first, You know what I mean? It's almost you limiting everything that was accomplished for your family or the idea that it could be by saying that this is only starting with me. When there were a lot of other important foundational bricks that your family might have laid that hasn't been put to the forefront because it's made to look like it's less. I think sometimes the moral foundation of a high level that's been set in place in your family is definitely undervalued if you place it next to a family who's passed down money and wealth to their kids. If your grandparents or great grandparents passed down you some priceless knowledge that, you know, helped you solidify you as a person, as a great person all over, it's less valued than somebody who inherits money. Which it definitely shouldn't be, because the money or the businesses that are passed down don't mean that the kids are going to use it in the right way. Don't mean that the parents did. And it don't mean they won't. But the knowledge that's passed down from generation to generation is invaluable, but it is put in a category as if it's just old people talk, or it's not as important as having money passed down, when, you know, like home remedies and knowing about who you are, and, you know, certain things you're supposed to do and how you act will help your life spiritually elevate to levels that you would not understand because you would never give it a chance. It's like nobody wants to hear the wisdom and the knowledge from the elders if it don't involve them having some financial security or stability. They want the house, they want the car, they want the life insurance policies. You know, but once that's gone, if you don't got the wisdom attached to that, what purpose did it do you? So I know I'm kind of rambling on, but, you know, this is my first shot at this. I might post this, I don't know, but for now, I don't even know how long I've been going. But if you did tune in for this and you like it, please like and comment. And on the bottom of this, when I post it, I'm gonna post it on YouTube. And this is just the introduction. Of course, I'm gonna try to get better at it, get more organized. But like I said, I appreciate those if you did tune in and who will tune in. And if y'all like this and want to see some more of this or hear some more of this, let me know. And hopefully I'll do some more. But that's my side of the story, and I'm sticking to it. Peace.